out of the forest and into the lovely rolling hillside of Transylvania. You know what? Adventure bikes, eat your heart out. Yes, 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 yes. Huh. You know what? Okay, much better. There was just too much sun out there. Okay, so let's go over the cluster real quick. Using the mode switch, you can toggle between the different modes, the power mode and the electronics control modes. And you press up and down on the rocker switch to basically toggle between the various available modes. Down here you have everything to do with lighting and signaling. The path light, as you can see, is this little thing. Below the signal lights there's the horn and the hazard lights. Very simple setup. Up top here is the cruise control. You push this middle button, that's very flimsy, to basically prime the cruise control system, and you can set it and resetting and basically increase and decrease the speed using the rocker switch. On the right side, very simple, power and stop, and the absolutely dreadful menu roll button, which is just the worst. Holding, while in the TCS mode and stationary, holding the up rocker for a few seconds will basically turn off the entire stability control system. So you lost lift, you lost everything, you're on your own man mode. The SC light comes on. Normally, in normal operation, when the TCS is on, that flickers when TCS intervenes. So it's lovely. It's absolutely very, very simple, very minimalistic, extremely useful, great. No qualms there. The DModes, let's talk about the power modes. They span from 1 to 4. 1 being the most powerful, you get basically everything the bike can give you out of the box. And then 4 is a special mode. Even in the manual, Yamaha said it has power limitations. I honestly don't know. The bike technically does have a speed governor on it, so maybe it even limits the top end power, but what it really does, and you can feel it instantaneously, is it absolutely nukes the response time and the power delivery. It's basically something that they say you should use in the rain mode. Honestly, if it's not a torrential downpour, you're not gonna be in mode 4. Mode 3 is more than enough from my experience in rainy conditions. Change the tires and maybe even mode 2. Yeah, but what's really nifty between the various modes is there's a substantial gap. They're not just for fluff, right? So between 4 and 3 there's a substantial difference. Between 3 and 2 there's another substantial difference. You can feel it. Less so between 2 and 1. There's probably a response in the throttle. There's a change like in the response of the throttle between 2 and 1, but you're hard pressed to basically find it. However, overall, wonderfully done, Yamaha. Absolutely great. In day-to-day operations, you're mostly gonna be in mode 1, maybe mode 2 if you feel like chilling a bit. But yeah, and when rain starts pouring, go to mode 3. TCS also has 4 distinct modes. Off, which you've seen it, it's a special profile that you have to specially turn on, and it basically completely shuts off the TCS systems. Then there's basically 2, 1, and then M. M is a special TCS profile. You go into the menu and configure it, and we'll see that in a bit. TCS 1 and 2 are basically exactly what they say on the label. Every one of the assistance levels is set to 1. Every one of the assistance levels is set to 2 for TCS Mode 2. Very simple, very straightforward. Good job. Just like the DModes, the difference between TCS 2 and 1 is substantial. The most of them, I feel like the slide control between 2 and 1 is probably the most impactful of the settings. There's a third level of TCS. Maybe you can set like your manual to go up to 3 just for the kicks of it. Realistically, I don't really know if you need anything more than 2 and 1, but it's lovely that it's there. More prevention for beginner riders. That's the kick of it. Like, because the settings are there, this feels like a very good beginner bike. You can dial it back just a bit, maybe TCS 2, and then DMode 2 or 3, and then as you gain more and more experience, you can bump them up to their full capacity. Don't let the bike fool you. If you're between 7 and 9,000, where that Euro 5 hump basically ends, the bike will jolt you forward. You have to be extra careful with the throttle around that area if you're not used to bikes, basically. It can launch you back, and then you will end up with the stuck throttle hand, and you'll keep on accelerating forward. So it's a pleasant addition that Yamaha has provided with the electronics. Okay, so let's talk about the dashboard real quick. The upper part is very intuitive, very easy to read, and quite well. I would say that the layout is fairly okay. Like, you have the RPM up top, you have the speedometer in the left, the gear indicator on the right side. The whole section flashes if you have it set up in the menu, and we'll see in a bit. The quick shifter, there's a quick shifter indicator light that tells you basically when you can upshift and downshift. The quick shifter is particularly pretentious on this bike. You cannot upshift and downshift anytime. You can only downshift if you're not on the throttle, and only upshift if you are on the throttle. I feel like that's a very poor implementation. There are better implementations, but the quick shifter experience overall it's better if you have it than if you don't. The small indicator lights there are useful. Below that top section, you have some useful information. Actually, you have the DModes, and there's obviously the primary mode like I showed you, in the secondary mode. You can only change the one that's on the right side, that's basically selected. And then you have two pieces of customizable information, and this is where my issue with this dash. There's only two pieces of information, and realistically, let's be honest, you will have the fuel gauge as one of them, especially that because this bike has a feature. When the fuel light comes on, the gauge up top basically changes from whatever it is to a fuel counter. Basically, it will count the kilometers that you've done since the fuel light came on. It's a very nifty feature, useful, I would say. The lower part, you can do whatever you want: air temperature, engine temperature, odometer, trip meters. It's very simple. If you select a trip meter, like I have so, and then you press the menu button and hold it down, it will reset said trip meter. Very simple to interact with. My problem with this approach is you only get the two pieces of information, and you kind of want more. I usually want more. I want to see the air temperature and the engine temperature implicitly on any bike, I would say. Especially because you have all that real estate down there. So this section of the dashboard is quite badly designed. First off, the clock, it doesn't do 24 hours, even though it counts to 12, so there's enough space for a 24-hour clock. The BC out there is completely useless. BC is the brake control system, and there's two modes. There's 1 and 2. I don't know why they added that light there. It's honestly, if, for example, and I'll show you right now, I'll overlay it as the manual states, if there's an emergency that happens, Yamaha does have the ability to change that lower part and basically show you that something's up with your bike. So you already have the functionality in there. Why not put the air temperature in there, or give me something, allow me to pick another 1 or 2 pieces of information that under normal circumstances will be displayed there. Don't give me the BC. That's not really useful. At least show me which one of them is on, BC 1 or 2, not just that it's on. Everything else is relegated for errors and heated grips if you have them. So I feel like that space is wasted. It's also color deficient, this screen, but that's neither here nor there. Overall, I feel like the more it got to the lower side of the screen, the less time they spent into its implementation. Another thing that's wildly missing from this screen is, if I have the cruise control on, I don't get to know what speed it's set at. It would have been nice if, I don't know, the rev minute per minute counter or something somewhere, like up down here, some small indicator with what the target speed that the bike is gunning for is actually set in the cruise control system. Just simple stuffs like that. Or down there, doesn't particularly matter. It's an LCD screen. You can play around with it. So anyway, I feel like Yamaha could have done better, but that's the gist of the screen. The menu is equally simple, and bear with me while I try to operate this wheel. This is really, really bad. As you can see, let's go through the menu options. You can exit the menu, obviously. Display settings. You can have a lap timer or a tacho collar. If the tacho collar is off, the RPM counter and speedo light won't blink at you. You set that up at what level in a different screen. The manual TC settings is that manual TC profile that I've talked about, and as you can see, I've set it up to 3. It goes from 3 to 1. You can set some of them off. For example, if you want to do slides, right? You cannot set TCS off. You have to do the 3 seconds switch. But yeah, so this will be whenever you see the M profile, this is your M profile. Whatever you set here, you can play around with it, customize it. Maybe you don't want lift control because you want more control over your wheelies, or maybe you don't want slide controls because you want to. So you can have one custom profile that's very easily tailored within this menu. Just exit it. Vehicle settings. This is just the brake control systems, as I mentioned. So there's brake control 1 and 2. Let's talk about that for a second. Brake control 1 is the classic brake control system that only basically relies on the ABS sensors. The difference in speed between the front and the rear wheel. Brake control 2, which I've just turned on, and realistically I should have had this on all the time, is this uses the IMU, which is something new for the XSR model. That means that if you brake and the system basically reads off the IMU, in a corner it will brake adaptively, which is fantastic. This is a must. I love it that you can tweak between them, honestly. Maybe something like turn the ABS system off and have it fully on would have been better. Either way, I like that there's settings for it, and the quick shifter you can choose if you want to have it enabled for up and down shifts. Straightforward, simple, lovely. That's all you have in terms of vehicle settings. It would be nice, for example, regarding the background, as you can see, there's no change. I've changed it between 1 and 2, and there's no change on that icon. That icon is fundamentally useless. It's always there. It burns the LCD pixels in at that specific spot. Kind of unthoughtful of Yamaha, I would say. Shifting indicator, like I mentioned, you can choose where the tacho should start flashing, hey change, and you can have it if it's on or off. Oh, one correction, the tacho collar. The tacho collar is if you want to have it flashing, is if it should use basically the colors are monochrome. It's white and black most of the time. There's a bit of red in there. The tacho color, basically, if you rev it up, you will see that it flashes green and orange at some point. It gives it 2 or 3 more colors, basically. Yeah, the shift indicator is the thing that basically flashes the indicator once you're in the specific RPM that you desired. Maintenance, very simple. It tells you, it basically counts up since your last oil change and whatever other interval you want. You can reset this interval. I've used interval 1 since I did the first service at 1,000 kilometers, and I'm basically at 1,200 right now. You have to come in here and remember to reset them. Yeah, nice, really nice. I think the oil change was automatically resetted by the dealership. The brightness, again, very straightforward. You get 3 units of brightness. The LCD is bright enough. Again, remember, I have a specific matte protection coating on it right now. I've just to protect the screen a bit more, so it's a bit darker than you would normally see it, but it also doesn't reflect the sunlight, so there's less glare on it, which is great. It's The clock, this is one of my gripes. Instead of having 24 hours military time, basically they just allow you to set the clock, and that's it. That's all you get. And then you can reset everything, whatever you choose, to reset it to like a factory default setting for the screen. That's all there is to it. Extremely simple. Everything to do with the menu, you operate using the wheel. Yeah, Yeah. I would say that overall the menu experience, if you could do away with the menu wheel, is fairly straightforward, fairly easy to use. It does feel a bit budgety, I would be honest, but I don't mind it. The interaction, it's fast enough. You get to where you need to be and tweak the things that you want to tweak fairly easily. Let's talk about the cruise control a bit more. The way the cruise control operates is you prime it using this button, and then you can see the cruise control light comes on, and then you set it, and you can reset it using the rocker switch here. This rocker switch that moves ever so slightly. Anyway, yeah, there are multiple ways of canceling it once it's on. You can either repress the button, you can roll back the throttle beyond. There's like a small switch in there. It's kind of hard. You have to push it. It's not like on a Ducati or on a Aprilia. You have to force it through, but you will feel it when it engages, and it turns off the cruise control or any of the brakes or the clutch, basically. If you do anything, it's very intuitive, very easy to understand. The system works well. What I really like about it is the up and down buttons, distinct up and down buttons, or something that allows you to basically set the up and down. In my humble opinion, I feel like it's very useful. There are implementations like on the Zero where you have the cruise control down here and you can basically toggle it on and off really quickly and accelerate your desired speed. I feel like that's also an acceptable implementation, but I don't know, there's something about having the ability to go up and down in speed without fiddling with the acceleration that really appeals to me.
Demo time. Let me show you how the quick shifter works. So watch this. No hand. See those two arrows? Let me do it like this. So I can upshift, and then if I let off the throttle, the green arrow comes on and I can downshift easily. Right? Very simple. You're on the throttle, you can upshift. You're off the throttle, you can downshift. Now you do have to have both, you have to have it enabled in the menu for both ups and downs. But the point is there are a couple of green arrows that come on. Very simple, very straightforward. It's a bit jerky at lower RPM, but as soon as you hit high revving RPMs, you're fine. Downshifts, the auto blipper could work better. You have to be vigilant with the downshifts. Anyway, great implementation. This is a very good addition for the XSR 900 package. There's one quirk of the quick shifter, so watch this, and especially downhill it's easier for me to hit. But there's an in-between right here. If you can hear the engine, you probably can't. It's not actually decelerating. I'm actually giving it a bit of gas. There's a constraint where the sensor isn't. There's a null zone basically where some sensor doesn't know what to do, and basically both constraints are off. And this works in every gear right here. So I can both upshift and downshift. See? They just. And it's not hard to hit actually, as you saw. I went through the gears with the jolting and everything. There's quite a bit of a dead zone in there. But it just tells me that Yamaha basically coded in that binary. If accelerating, go up. If decelerating, allow it to go down. Funny. Okay, so let me show you how the cruise control works real quick. You activate the system by pressing that middle button, and then the cruise control light comes on. If you're in anything but 4th gear and above, you cannot set it. So watch this. I'm pressing the set button. The system doesn't activate. In the manual, it says that you can activate it above 4th gear and between 50 and 160 kilometers. That's not true. You can activate it only above 4th gear, but you can actually do 45 kilometers for the system to kick on. So watch this. I'm going to go into 4th gear. Here, let me show you. So you saw that. I'm actually on the deceleration and it's still engaged. It's actually keeping the cruise control is basically primed. And you can use the up and down buttons to basically increase and decrease the target speed. It will not go below 45, so watch this. Even on a downhill, yep. That's actually its minimum speed. I don't know if 160 is the true top speed. That's what the manual states, but there are a lot of inconsistencies in the manual from what I've seen. who knows? I'm not gonna test the cruise control at 160. Those are fun speeds. There's one more feature. Let me show you how the reset aspect works, because I really love this. So I'm gonna roll off the throttle and the cruise control deactivates. And then I'm gonna press the reset button, and now it tries to pick back up the speed that I was before I basically deactivated it. I really love that. I find like this type of cruise control is one of the better implementations. I don't know, it's just me. I love individual controls for various aspects. The only gripe I have is, so you can have the system primed like this and it remembers your reset speed, but if it doesn't show you what the reset speed was, it discourages you from using that functionality. Okay, back to the review.
But yeah, that's basically all there is to it. The overall electronics package on the bike is pretty well done, I would say. What I would do if I was Yamaha on the next iteration, I would fix this. This is absolutely horrendous. Not to do with electronics, but it's how you access most of the electronics. This has to go. I would much prefer a regular POS light rather than the mode switch. And the mode switch, which you hardly ever use, just put it as an individual button up top or somewhere else. Final thoughts before I wrap this up. Maybe I'll show you some cruise control action on the filthy streets of Transylvania. Running this bike as your first bike, like a beginner motorcycle. Normally, I would not advise you running an MT-09 or an XSR 900, especially the older gen models. But because this specific gen, the 2021 MT-09 and the 2022 XSR 900, because their electronic systems and their power control modes are so well balanced, extremely well done, Yamaha, this is, I would say it's an exception. Like, you could start off on a 600 bike easily, but this time around you can almost get a liter bike. And I feel like if you have just a bit of throttle and you're just a bit more chill, let's say, you could definitely start off on one of these bikes. And you can grow into it, basically. Yeah, I have no problems recommending this as a starter bike for some people. The only thing you need to consider specifically to the XSR model is, because of the extended swing arm and because of the poor travel in the forks, you will have a hard time wrangling this bike. If you want to maneuver the bike at a standstill or while stopped, it's hard. So yeah, if you have any questions pertaining to the XSR 900, yeah, put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. If not, have a lovely week or a weekend. Cheers.